start with something interesting. Varad, if you want to come, please come. Don't disturb me. From the past few classes, we have been seeing the whole issue of implementing information system from developers' perspective. We have seen how developers take a step, a very systematic step in development. I've been severely disadvantaged in this class. Who of my asked in the last hour where people sleep? 1 hour in the first hour where people come. What am I supposed to do? In addition to this, I am asked to handle engineering design for first year people because nobody wants to. That's 3 hours class. 3:34. I don't know what I do. Students should keep some bodyguard. Don't tell anyone. The major theme of this course, I hope all of you still remember, is looking at the whole aspect from business perspective. It has been emphasized time and again in this course that the technical perspective on the topics are not that important for us, they are only incidental. The technical angle of the topics that we will be studying in various other subjects also. The speciality of this subject is that we give a business treatment to the same topics. For example, software development. In the previous class, if you carefully observe, the treatment was more on technical terms. How to develop, what are the means, and he criticized those methods and understood what are the basic limitations of those methods. They are basically technical discussions. But we should not forget our basic aim. Basic aim in this course is to sensitize all of you regarding the business aspects regarding technology. So today's class I will reserve it for discussing issues from this perspective. Let us look at the same issue from the other perspective. Now what is the question? Question before us, thinking like businessmen, is this. My organization is in a situation, a typical business situation, where I am facing some pressures, call it problems. More technically we call it pressures. Is facing certain imminent pressures. To survive in the market, I have to apply a strategy, a well thought of process. Strategy is nothing but a survival method. I will not think of strategy if I don't have any problems. Please understand, all this discussion comes into picture only when you are facing some problem. Then only you talk about strategy. Ideally, in textbook we talk about 12 different strategies. But believe me, in real life, nobody thinks that whether I should apply this strategy, that strategy. Survival is a question here. When survival is the question, the animalistic instincts take over. I need to fight with my competitor and then survive, whatever be the means. Of course, certain things we can't discuss in the classroom, therefore we are not raising them. We speak them in a very diplomatic manner. Then there are certain strategies, you can apply those strategies. But in real life, they don't apply. Anyway, the question is, when you are facing imminent threats or pressures, and then you decide on applying a strategy to survive, how can IT help? Is a question. Therefore, we said, if you remember in one of the discussions, when you are formulating the new strategy, the information system strategy, the necessary inputs are basically the business strategy that you have adopted. You say that to survive in the market today, I will apply differentiation. Now the question is, how will IT in general, information systems in particular, help you achieve that? So how will IT help me implement an identified strategy is the question. Now as a businessman, what to do? I should implement IT. I have identified my strategy. To implement the identified strategy, I have to have a new IT plan which is in sync with my business strategy. Where do I start from? I will start by first understanding the current scenario. What is my current IT infrastructure? Then I will say, if I have to implement a new IS strategy, there are three options we have already seen. Either I should buy something which is already available, or I should build it in-house, or the third emerging strategy we have seen. I have to do this. Now the market is full of players who will claim that they will improve the business performance by delivering a IT solution. The market is full of such people. So now the necessary questions that you have to answer is, how will you identify the vendor, developer, who will build you that application for? Who will either build the application or give this application? So all the question now boils down to, how will you select the vendor? How will you select the company? Technical term, application service provider, ASP. How will you identify it? This is the question. We will answer this question. What are the methods that you can use to identify ASPs, application service provider? This is not a difficult question for us to answer, to be very frank. How do we select when there are multiple players in the market? We keep moving. Let me ask you a very simple question. Then let us build the theory. You have decided that you have to buy a pair of jeans. Similar situation. You have to buy a pair of jeans. You have various options available. Either go out and buy ready-made. Well, that strategy is not available today. At a point of time, I remember, was it Newport, which was giving the clothes which you could take to your tailor and stitch it? It was Newport. Some company tried it out. Where only the beginning material was available and you could take it to your tailor and stitch it to your particular needs. Anyway, there is an option now before all of this. If you want to select a pair of jeans, let us take multiple suppliers are there. How will we select in general? What question? Huh? Correct. Branding brand 1 to brand name 1, I know that I can trust this brand, I simply go there, get it. Fine. In more detail, brand yes. After that, what will you do? Price. Quality. How do you identify quality in jeans? I don't know. Tell me. I never worry about all these things. Huh? You have an idea of quality? How? Good question. How do you identify quality of jeans? Seeing the price. Huh? What are these? Seeing the price. More the price, better it is. Packet at Bandela Prasada. That's a new market trend actually. You package anything beautifully. People think it is of a better quality. I think it's interesting. What next? The quality of it. How do I get the quality of it? Please advise me.
By touching the material, first of all, you can find that it's
Comfortable. Huh? Recommendation from?
Recommendation friends.
Any other? That is you will try it once. Correct. But then it's only for a minute. But then that is an important quality. Any other? Shade. That is you go with a very predetermined shade that what select, go there, bring it come down. Any other? The whole economic activity. It's okay, fine. Everybody will have their own. Exactly. This is what I wanted one more somebody to raise this issue. See, I will ask you one thing very simple. This is what I do. I don't know how many do. I don't actually have a very predetermined mindset on what I should go out and do. Because my choices maybe are very limited, so I don't have to worry very much. There is a very standard shop where I go buy my kurta. I just go there, stand. The people there are so familiar with me that they know what shades I have and what I don't. And they know my size very well. So they just get, sir, these things you don't have, please take it. 5 minutes job is over. I feel that if people are so very deterministic about their choices, for example, as many of you have said, you all have determined the quality attributes. Like somebody said shade, somebody said fit, comfort. He was talking about quality as in comfort. That reminds me of what Christopher Alexander said. Christopher Alexander once said, he said very importantly, this thing what we call as quality is actually a quality without a name. If it is there, we can always feel it. If it is not there, we can say, no, it is not having that quality. But if you ask me to name it, I can't name it. This is the necessary attribute of quality. He was speaking in terms of buildings. See, in building, when you see the building, once you go there, you feel whether the building has quality or not. You can't say why. Christopher Alexander is a very important thinker for me mainly because he established the primality of feeling over thinking. Quality is that you feel, not what you think. That is very important. Now coming back, what I was thinking is, if people are very deterministic about their choices, like for example you say, the jeans that I am going to buy should be of this shade, between this price and that price should be of comfortable quality. If you are solely deterministic, then the buying decision and the process of purchasing something should happen with a simple time. Because you already know does it happen? Why? Especially with the ladies I've seen this. It does not happen. Why is that? I'm very curious. Is it that they are not predeterministic about their choices? Once they go see something new, one more requirements get added. Yes, the final product that I am going to have this also. In technical terms, we call it requirement creeping. Remember? In software, we call it requirements creeping. It's one of the dangerous things to happen. Because you are almost decided. The moment you go to buy that, for example, a saree, one more saree, one design, the zari design or something, this also should be there. You keep on hiding the requirements. Right? Finally, the whole decision making takes a lot of time. Same thing happens in software also, remember. It is nothing different. So, the choices, even in software selection, is primarily this. One, either you should have a predetermined set of characteristics. That my software should provide me this facilities, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or else what happens is, you see one software, you see one more software, you feel the quality that you have seen in that software should be included in this. And software has one more peculiar quality, you see. This actually, we are the culprits. We show everyone that changing something in software is very simple. For example, I have faced this problem while presenting web designs to my clients. The problem with web designing is this. Some organization says it wants to have a website. Take for example an education institute. You go before, as a developer, you go before them. What kind of mindset that person will have on the opposite side? He wants to have a website. The requirements he will give me is very simple. The website should be good. The website should be like, have you seen MIT website? Our website should be like that. No, he will not have even 1/10 of the infrastructure which MIT has. That is different. That does not matter for him. His website should be as good as MIT. Then you start showing him some designs. Your initial designs. On paper first. I prefer showing my designs on paper. Then he says, no, I think this should be here, this should be here. You make the changes. Then you show it on the computer. Then the whole question of color combinations will come. He will say, no, let us not have this shade of green. Let it be a little more dark. What will you do? You will immediately go to Photoshop, change that shade and again put it back. He will think it's so simple. And then he will keep on giving you the new requirement, thinking that implementing them is similarly simple. This adds so much pressure to the developer. At some point of time, we will all read this term called freezing the requirements. We never take it very seriously when we study it. Only once you come to the field and practice the art, you will know the importance of freezing the requirements. Until unless you don't freeze the requirement, starting the development is very, very difficult. That is the reason I feel why industry is so very attached to Scrum development model. The Scrum development model has these very short runs, where you take the requirements, do it, again go back to the customer, take the requirements, again do it. That kind of cycle is more practical. But Scrum development has some peculiar terms. They call the members pig members and chicken members. I don't know who chose the name. Some members are called as pig members, some members are called chicken members. They all have defined roles. Like Jinbang terms, like in Six Sigma or they have black belts and terms defined. But anyway, coming back to the original topic, the choices before a businessman, if he wants to buy software, is primarily this. One, he should set the requirements and then go to the market searching for someone who can provide him those things. Or second, have a very open mind, call the vendors whom he thinks are competent enough, ask them what to do and start developing. Necessarily in this framework, the relation between the person who gives the contract and the person who takes the contract necessarily happens in three ways. What are the three ways in which they can relate to each other? This we have studied in a very different context. Paternal agency and fiduciary. Everyone heard the terms? An employer and an employee basically share three models of relations. Paternal, agency and fiduciary. Because of these three relations, three different kinds of ethical issues emerge. Deborah Johnson necessarily takes the issue and she discusses the whole issue in a very interesting manner. Anyway, the idea is this. The person who gives the contract and you, what should be the relation between you two? The first is agency model. Agency model means the person who is giving the contract will identify what you should do. He will identify all the things that you should do. Your job is just to implement it. That is, in other terms, you are working as an agent. Deborah Johnson says this relation is devoid of any moral conflicts. Because you, while you are implementing, you will feel something is better, but you don't have a choice. You are necessarily a person without any moral thinking there. You are just an agent. He has asked you to do it, you do it. This is one model. The second model is paternal model, wherein the developer takes a more proactive role. He goes on suggesting that this may be better than that. He takes a more proactive role. That is paternal model. Fiduciary model is in between these two extreme models where both of them have some kind of understanding with each other. Both collaboratively come together to build a product. So there are necessarily three ways. The first model works only when the requirements are very clear to the person who is giving you the contract. Then what will he do? He will necessarily call for tender, one financial tender, one technical tender. Both should be scrutinized. Then finally, based on some evaluation criteria which are predetermined, he should select a vendor. Then contract should be signed. After signing the contract, the development should begin. Once the product is operational, the service level agreement should be written down. This forms the whole cycle. But again, this very simple looking cycle has its own share of problems. To start with, let us begin with identifying first problem. When you call for tender, which in itself is a very difficult thing. How to call for tender? To call for tender, you have to identify your problem. Identifying problem is not easy. Let us simplify this problem. Let us take one familiar example. MSRIT wants to build a complete computer-based system for maintaining student records. Let us say that is a problem. I have identified all the requirements. I have called for tenders. Many people have submitted the tenders, technical tenders. How will I evaluate those tenders? Technical evaluation. Financial, you give it something. Technical evaluation. If 2 or 3 persons give you the document when you send the request proposals, when they submit, how will you evaluate? No software. Let us take any two familiar software and try to evaluate, then you will have a better idea. Which operating systems have used more than one operating system? How will you evaluate? Given 2 things, how will you evaluate and take a decision? Technical decision. This is one thing which we have to do. Keep on doing. 2 things. Take browser. Browser maybe most of you may be using more than one browser. There are 2 browsers. Browser 1, browser. Let us not name them. You have to tell me which is better. How will you start evaluating? speed of what?